a couple minutes or a couple seconds, I mean.
And Heather, after you, you need to actually call the roll. You just look and see who's online.
I call it. We're live.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the CP Finance Committee meeting. Thank you all for everyone who's able to join from wherever you are. I know we're all spread out across the state, so thank you all very much. We'll start with a call to order and a roll call. So I'll hand it over to Heather for a roll call.
All right. Mr. Colby Burks will be joining us shortly. Dr. Kelly Ellis.
Present.
Mr. Eric Ferris. I think he's joining late. Chair Lucas Benzer.
Here.
Mr. Richard Nelson.
Here.
Mr. Madison Silver. And Ms. Elaine Walker. So we need one more person to join us for quorum. So we'll move on to something else.
Okay.
Well, and Heather, if you wouldn't mind, would you pull up the agenda before we skip those several information items? I could just give folks an overview of what we're going to cover today.
Yeah,
You
I think that'd be good.
Throw the agenda up on the screen. And
while she does that, just for the record, seeing as we don't have quorum, we're going to skip over some of the action items that we have on the docket today and cover the informational items first. And once we get quorum, we'll circle back to any action items that we can do. So with that, Bill, I'll hand it over to you if you want to do a quick overview.
And Heather is showing you an agenda for today's meeting. Of course, the approval of the minutes, that's going to wait until we have a quorum. We've got two action items under tuition setting for academic year 2022-23. That's the tuition policy and timeline. We are going to ask the council to approve, or excuse me, the finance committee to approve the tuition policy today. We're also going to ask that you approve two tuition and fee proposals that we've received from Northern Kentucky University and KCTCS. The next action item number 4, is the interim capital project. EKU has received some federal dollars and they want to use those monies to upgrade some building management control systems. And then lastly, items 5 and 6 are the two information items on the agenda. The 2022-20 budget update first, followed by Ms. Powell is on the call and he's going to give us an update on the KSU special appropriation. So with that, you want Chair Metzer to go ahead and let Sean give us an update on the budget?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Hi there. On March 30th, the House and Senate passed a pre-conference committee report of House Bill 1, the 2022-24 budget of the Commonwealth. There were a number of very positive provisions for post-secondary education, and I'm just going to very quickly go over those provisions. The first, under campus operating funds, $80 million in each year of the upcoming biennium for the performance fund. So when combined with the $17.3 million that's already in the base, that takes performance funding up to almost $100 million, $97.3 million in each year. And it's important for us to remember that that's $80 million in new funding each year of the upcoming biennium. So fantastic. The budget bill also maintains pension subsidies next year at the current year level. And that of course is for the comprehensive universities, with the exception of NKU, which does not participate in the KERS pension system. KCTCS does participate in the KERS pension system. In the second year of the upcoming biennium, in 23-24, that pension subsidy is reduced 10%. So very positive about next year for that pension subsidy, and it does get reduced in the second year by 10%. The budget also adds new funding for mandated programs, $27.7 million next year. And because of that reduction in the pension subsidy, it goes down to $23.2 million in the second year of the biennium. And we'll go over in one of the attachments just what those changes to mandated programs are. So in total, $107.8 million next year and $103.2 million the following year. That doesn't include debt service. That's the total of additional support for our institutions, and that's about 12% in that first year and 11.4% in the second. So just we tend to look at the minutia, and it's good to back up and say, hey, that's 12%, that's 11.4%. So good numbers to keep in your mind. In terms of capital investment, a huge win.
Sean, let me
Yes,
jump
sir.
in and say this. I know the board knows this, or the finance committee knows this, but this has been the largest increase in higher education and close to what, Bill, 30 years?
Let me unmute here. It's certainly in the 21 years that I've been at the council, this is one of the best, if not the best budget for higher education that I've seen.
So it's just absolutely fantastic news for higher ed in terms of campus operations. The capital side, I think, is even more spectacular. Really, I was just shocked. Essentially, $700 million for asset preservation. So the numbers are slightly different. We can go over that, but $683.5 million for asset preservation pools, and that's distributed to the campuses based on their share of square footage, and it's matched at 30% at the research institutions, 15% of the comprehensive universities and KCTCS, and I can show you that that math there. But that's short of the 50% match that we requested in past years. There was a dollar for dollar match, and this is even better than the dollar for 50 cents match that we had talked about. So very, very positive on that front. There's also over $800 million for new construction and renovation projects. So when combined, that's about $1.5 billion over the biennium for capital, and very, very, very positive. So that $812 million, almost all of that's available in the second year of the upcoming biennium. EKU's alumni Coliseum project, that funding is available in the first year of the biennium. So there's a capital project for Kentucky Regional Optical Network, $1 million for that project. And so we're excited to upgrade that network that CPE helps oversee. Very, very positive for us. And of course, the budget includes debt service. If it didn't include debt service, we'd be in trouble. But it does. So that's very positive news. Any questions about capital investment? I will, since we have a little bit of time, essentially $700 million was provided for asset preservation pools, and it was distributed according to square footage. And then the General Assembly said, let's take one of those renovation projects at KCTCS, $16.5 million. We'll fund that project directly. So that's not included in the asset preservation pool. It's its own separate project. So that's why it's not quite $700 million. But the project gets funded anyway. KCTCS gets their share. Actually, what they end up having to match is slightly less. So it's positive for KCTCS, and certainly we're very grateful of the investment that the General Assembly is making in higher education. And wait, there's more. Trust funds, $40 million for Bucks and Brains, $30 million for the research institutions, and $10 million for the Comprehensive University Excellence Trust Fund. There is language in the budget that restricts that funding to be used to advance science, technology, engineering, math programs. So we'll have to tweak our guidelines to make sure that there's a focus on those areas. And then there's funding for KCTCS for the Workforce Development Trust Fund, $2.2 million in the first year of the upcoming biennium. And then finally, the CPA agency budget, there's a $10 million appropriation of federal funds in the first year of the upcoming biennium. for a healthcare workforce initiative, and that will be administered by CPE. We're very excited about that opportunity to address some of the workforce shortages in the state that have a healthcare connection. So any Bill or Aaron, any desire to talk a little bit more about that funding?
But before you say that, I just wanted to make mention that Eric Ferris has joined the call.
Thank you. Sorry for the tardiness.
No, no worries. Welcome, Eric. Heather, does that put us at quorum?
And,
It does.
Perfect. I just wanted to call that out. Go ahead.
the remaining bullet I have under agency budget is there is a salary increase for state employees, so that's very much appreciated. And there's indications in the budget bill that there's a salary increase in that second year. And so if anybody on this Zoom call has been to the grocery recently, you'll notice that costs are going up, and we're grateful for additional compensation to help meet those costs in our own families and households. So as Bill and Aaron mentioned, this budget is one of the best budgets for higher education in at least the last 20, 30 years. And I'm just delighted that the Higher Education Matters slogan is campaign is really making strides, and just very, very grateful for the confidence that the leaders of the Commonwealth have placed in President Thompson and CPE.
Well, Sean, you asked if I had any comments. The only comment I would make is to let Member Ferris know we're going to provide an update on Friday to the full council. And so in addition to reading the agenda item that's in your materials, Sean will be providing an update this coming Friday at the council meeting. So you're gonna get to hear it for the first time. Others will get to hear it a second time.
Thanks.
So with that, do we need to go back to the start, or was this the first item we wanted to cover either way?
Yeah, I'd go back and go ahead and do the approval of the minutes, and then we can with the action items if you would care.
Yeah. I'd say let's do that. I don't know if everyone can stay for the whole session, but if just in case, let's go ahead and get those knocked out, and then we can move forward. So the minutes are there in passageways. Do I have a motion to approve as they're listed there?
So moved.
Thank you, Eric.
Second.
All right. Motion by Mr. Ferris, second by Mr. Nelson. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Excellent. Minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is the tuition setting for academic year 2022-2023. It doesn't say in my passageway who's going to take that item. Bill, is that you?
Yes, it is, Chair.
Okay. Excellent.
Heather, if you wouldn't mind, could you bring up that agenda item? It's just a one-page agenda item, and this should be fairly quick. But essentially, CPE staff is recommending the Finance Committee endorse for the full council.
I'm sorry. Can I stop you for a second? Our feed went out completely here. And so I didn't hear, I'm not sure if your vote on the minutes recorded to YouTube. Do you mind to do that again, just in case?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
So I'll repeat that the motion was made by Mr. Ferris and seconded by Mr. Nelson. So we'll do it again.
Okay.
All in favor of approving the minutes as presented, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries again.
Thank you. Okay, now.
No problem. And don't hesitate to stop if that happens again. Just stop us, and we'll happy to make sure that's covered. Okay, and then
we were moving to the first action item, which is the tuition and mandatory fee policy and tuition setting timeline. So if you would, could you pull up that agenda item? Heather, you there?
Do you see it?
There you go.
Do you see it?
Okay, thank you. CPE staff is recommending that the Finance Committee endorse for full council approval Attachment A to this agenda item, which is the tuition and mandatory fee policy for academic year 2022-23. Other than changing the year that's referenced in the header in Attachment A on that policy, it is the same policy that was approved by the council at its January 29th, 2001 meeting. We had a number of discussions with campus presidents and chief budget officers. And at the end of the day, we determined that any substantive changes to the tuition policy could be discussed at length and vetted prior to the 2023-24 tuition setting cycle. Hence, we are not recommending any changes at this time. And as many of you will recall, you adopted a 2-year tuition parameter using the 2021-22 tuition policy, which is essentially the same policy that you're approving today with a new header. And so I think there was some sense that since you adopted a 2-year parameter, that we ought to be operating under the same policy that was used to establish those parameters. Once approved, the policy that you're going to take action on today will facilitate staff's evaluation of the tuition and fee rate proposals submitted for council approval for the upcoming academic year. Also attached to this agenda item, Attachment B, is a tuition setting timeline. 2 dates that you'll want to keep in mind. It's anticipated that the full council will take action on the tuition and fee policy this coming Friday on April 15th, as well as take action on the Northern Kentucky University and KCTCS tuition and fee proposals that we're going to be taking a look at here in just a moment. And then at your June 17th meeting, any remaining tuition and fee proposals submitted by the campuses will be brought for council approval. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
So, Bill, what we're asking for today is approval for staff to evaluate the rates that the campuses are asking for.
Well, we're just asking the Finance Committee to approve the tuition and fee policy. And we will use that policy, and in fact, we already have to evaluate the 2 campus proposals.
Okay.
Going to be hearing about here in just a minute. But it's a typical process on an annual basis that we ask the council to approve the tuition and fee policy. It just so happens that this year that there were no changes in the policy other than to update it to reflect that it will cover the academic year 2022-3.
Okay. That was my next question, is were there any substantive change? I didn't think so, but I just wanted to ask that to make sure that. So yeah, Kelly, Eric, Richard, do you all have any questions about the policy? We've used it in the past. So if there's any questions, this is the time. So
we're not approving any increases. Last time we dealt with the tuition increase question, it was for a 2-year period, and I believe Bill or somebody chime in, was it 1.5% maximum that they could raise tuition in any 1 year, or 3%?
3% in 2 years.
Over 2 years, 1.5% in 1 year. Are we dealing with that? Or is that part of this equation?
It was 3% over 2 years and no more than 2% in any 1 year. And I'm going to show you those parameters here momentarily as you evaluate Northern and KCTCS proposals. At KCTCS, the parameter was no more than a $5 per credit hour increase over 2 years and no more than a $3 per credit hour increase in any 1 year. So those parameters are not included in the policy itself. And you approved, I believe it was on May the 13th, 2021, you approved those 2-year parameters. So you're not approving those parameters again. You've already done that.
Okay.
So
Thank
to
you.
answer your question more specifically, Richard, yeah, if they took a 2% last year, the max they could take this year is 1%. If they took a 1% last year, the max they could take would be 2%. So it can't go more than 3 total percentage points. Now, most took a reasonable smaller amount last year. So you still will have another small year. Bottom line, this we'll be going into our 4th year with very low tuition, in other words.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. So, and we've already locked that in, the tuition increases. So with this proposal, are we going to continue on with those percentage breakdowns for 1 year and then for 2 years? Is that going to be included in this proposal that we're going to vote on?
Now, this proposal is just really just the policy you've already had. So it's just common that we do it. Now, what you're asking is next year we'll have to go through all this over again. In other words, next year is when we lock in the percentages again, whether we have to lock in 2 things next year. We don't have to do that now because we've already got it locked in. But the 2 things we have to do next year is decide whether we're going to have a 1 or 2 year ceiling, and then what those percentages are. So for this year, though, we've already done it. So this is just basically the simple policy that we have to just approve every year, which to some degree, I understand what you're saying. Some degree, it's really not relevant in many cases because we've already said it. This is just saying you're not going to change the same philosophy you used last year for this year. If that makes sense.
It's like saying you're not going to change horses in the middle of the stream. You're going to keep the same policy that you have for 2021-22,
Gotcha.
the upcoming academic year. And Heather, if you would let me share my screen for one moment, I could show the council members what they approved last year. Heather, are you there?
Oh,
I'm here. We're having some internet issues at the hotel, so I have to keep going out, but you're wanting to be able to share, is that correct?
correct. That's for Bill,
All
not for
right,
me.
Bill, I've made you co-host. Or I thought I did.
Great, thank you, Heather. So this is what the council adopted back on May 13th last year. And it was a 2-year parameter for the current year, 2021-22, and for this upcoming academic year, 2022-23. Maximum base rate increases no more than 3% over 2 years and no more than 2% in any 1 year for the public universities. Maximum base rate increases of no more than $5 per credit hour over 2 years and no more than $3 per credit hour in any 1 year for KCTCS. And as you might recall, also included in those parameters that were approved a year ago, non-resident, the institutions would be allowed to submit for council approval non-resident undergraduate tuition and fees that comply with the council's 2021-22 tuition and mandatory fees policy, or an existing MOU between the council and an institution. And then finally, market competitive tuition and fee rates for graduate and online courses. And so that's the reason we want to go ahead and adopt the tuition and mandatory fee policy with no changes, but just update it so that it is the 2022-23 tuition and fee policy, so that when campuses submit those proposals for your review and action, we can make sure that they comply with the 2022-23 tuition and mandatory fee policy.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that, Bill. That makes sense. Thank you.
So I believe we need a motion to approve the policy, correct?
So I move that we propose the recommendation per the CPE staff.
Thank you, Richard.
Second that motion.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Eric, I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Just checking, just making sure. All right, all opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries. Bill, thank you very much. Next topic on the agenda, I believe, is the campus tuition and fee proposals. We've got one for Northern and one for KCTCS, if my passageways is correct.
That is correct. Heather, am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, I just went over these 2-year parameters council approved in May of last year. Here's what's being proposed by Northern Kentucky University. They're proposing a $196 annual increase in their base rate for resident undergraduate students. As you can see, that's a 2% increase. Just a reminder, if you look at the bullet in the upper right-hand corner, between 2020-21 and the current year, 2021-22, Northern Kentucky University increased their resident undergraduate tuition by $100 or 1%. So this is exactly the scenario that President Thompson was telling you about just a moment ago. Northern went up by 1% for the current year. And so in order to stay within that 3% over 2-year ceiling that was set by the council, their increase for the upcoming academic year, which is 2022-23, cannot exceed 2%. And that is what they are proposing. And so based on that, we can say that their rates comply with the council approved ceilings. And I went ahead and listed those ceilings. I'm not going to go over those again in the bullets in the bottom right-hand corner. Northern Kentucky University is not bringing their graduate, resident, or non-resident rates at this time. They're going to hold off and bring those rates for council approval at the June meeting. In terms of KCTCS, between 2020-21 and 2021-22, they did not increase tuition and fees for resident students. In other words, they had a $0 per credit hour increase or a 0% increase for the current year. For the upcoming academic year, they are proposing a $3 per credit hour increase, which is a 1.7% increase. Again, this does comply with the council approved ceilings. It does not exceed $5 per credit hour over 2 years. In effect, it's just going to be a $3 per credit hour increase over 2 years. And it does not exceed $3 per credit hour in any 1 year. So this complies with the council approved. Here's staff's recommendation. Both the campus proposals submitted by NKU and KCTCS comply with the council approved ceilings. Non-resident and online rates meet council guidelines, and their campus governing boards, both at Northern and at KCTCS, have approved these proposed rates. So given that, staff is recommending that the Finance Committee approve the tuition proposals for the upcoming academic year submitted by NKU and KCTCS.
Excellent.
May I ask, Mr.
Any questions?
Chair?
Go ahead. Yes,
Yeah.
go right ahead.
Bill, can you refresh my memory for the upcoming year? Did any other district campuses already request increases that we've approved, or are these the only two?
These are the only two.
Okay.
Other institutions will be bringing their proposals at the June meeting.
You broke up on me, sorry. When?
I believe there's going to be a finance committee in advance of the full council meeting June 17th. So we will be bringing 7 proposals from the other campuses, plus NKU will be bringing their graduate tuition and fee.
Okay.
Yeah, and so those other institutions will be approved at a later meeting.
Later meeting. All right.
Yeah, so these are the only 2.
Are we seeing most of them max out or a varied request?
We don't know what the other 7 are going to propose at this point, but as President Thompson already indicated, a number of our institutions, just like KCTCS, came in well below that maximum
Right.
or even came in with no increase
Right.
between 2021 and 2022.
Right.
So
The likelihood, Eric, that it's going to look very similar to last year, because some took no last year, some took their 2, right? So in the end, it's going to be way under, it'd be under 2, no matter what. You know, it's going to be in the little over 1% range again. Almost has to be just because of the mathematics. So when you look at the average of the 2 years, the way it's going to end up being is very few will have taken the full 3%. So it'd be another low year, in other words.
And I'm just curious, you know, if that gives us any guidance on how we go forward.
What gives us guidance in my mind, I'll be careful how I say this because I need to think it out more, and I'm brain dead after 3 days of doing what I'm doing. But
And I caught you cold. I'm sorry.
yeah. But I tell you though, no, I mean, I've already thought about this. Bill and I have talked about it. You know, we've got some good funding coming in. Now, the issue we have to think about is that as performance funding, none of it goes to base. So people are looking at some of the base funding on tuition, get faculty a raise that they can budget, kind of thing. So, but they'll use some of that performance funding too, because all of our campuses will get some, except for 2 campuses. So, but we know we're going to have this good performance funding, the biggest year ever, by the way. Just want to say it again. You know, for the next 2 years. So the council needs to think about that as we think about, and this is where I thought Richard was going earlier. You may not, Richard, so I'm putting this on you. I mean, that for the next couple of years after that, what does all this mean, right? When you think about, to me, I think this 3%, the way we did it this past year and this coming year, really made some sound fiduciary sense, right? It really made some ways of even us arguing in the legislature that we've kept tuition low, thus fund us more, right? As a way of thinking about affordability. So the point, if I'm giving anything that makes logical sense, is those are the kinds of conversation I think the Finance Committee needs to have. What are the ways of strategizing for us to continue getting funding for higher ed, and for us, though, to also be fiduciarily sound with our budgets on campuses where people like Kelly Ellis can finally get a raise, you know, as an example, and they will. But I think your questions are leading to next year as much as they're saying anything about this year.
Thanks very much.
I had a question as well, and forgive me for being the new member here, but in terms of the per credit hour cost, is that applicable to online courses as well as face-to-face, or does the policy provide any, I guess, rule in regard to if a university may opt to charge more for online teaching?
Ms. Ellis, if you'll look in attachment A, which is for Northern Kentucky University, you can see their online rates listed there. And they are on a per credit hour basis. They are slightly higher than the per credit hour for resident students. It's $425 per credit hour this past fall for a resident student, and for an online student, $461 per credit hour. And then if you look in attachment C, there should be yes, here it is, an online charge at KCTCS per credit hour, and it is the same as their per credit hour charge for face-to-face instruction. So that's in attachments A and C.
The secret question you're asking, Dr. Ellis, is this. Should there be, I know Ryan Green is on here, he's probably going to shake his head a little bit. You know, should we be looking at equalizing those over time? And I think that makes sense, especially since COVID. And many of our campuses are doing exactly that. And we've been working with them over this last couple of years to do exactly that. Sooner or later, my hope is, and I say this out loud to everybody, even though I'm sure some of the presidents will clearly disagree with me, you know, it makes some sense for us to think about the new day of doing classes, and there should not be any difference between those. Now, we start going to a competency-based system, it's going to take a little money to build those out, no doubt. But if that's the question you're asking, that's the question we're already working on, by the way, to have answered. And used to be a huge difference between an online course cost and a face-to-face. That difference among most places have shrunk tremendously, and in some places they've disappeared.
Well, I think it merits. I agree. I think getting those to parity is a noble goal. I think that increases people's ability to attend universities that may not be geographically close. Somebody in Eastern Kentucky wants to attend Western, but they want to stay home, right? We hear that a lot. So, and I think in those areas where we have reached parity or we've made significant progress, I think that's worth mentioning out loud. You know, maybe we, as those happen, right, bring those to attention and call those out. I think that'd be good.
And Chair Metzer, I've heard President Thompson say this a number of times. It's very relevant in terms of trying to target those adult learners that you want to get to further their education.
Yep.
You know, they may be working full time and not be able to come on a typical face-to-face college schedule. And so having, you know, reasonable online alternatives is very important.
Absolutely. Any other questions on the proposals for NKU or KCTCS? Okay. So I believe we need a motion to pass those, the tuition and fee proposals for Northern Kentucky and KCTCS. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion to approve.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. All in favor of the proposal indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Excellent. Next item on the agenda is the interim capital project, the EKU upgrade building management control systems.
Me again here. On March 22nd, we received a request from EKU for council approval for a project to upgrade building management systems controls. It's a $1.1 million project. It's all federal funds. It would affect the Burnham, Kamek, Campbell, Corbin campus, Donovan, Moberly, Wallace, and Whitlock buildings there at EKU. This would be a security compliance system. And the project is, it may be eligible for more federal funds, but the scope, the $1,150,000 scope is sufficient to complete this project. If this committee approves this project, this interim capital project, it will go to the full council for approval on Friday. EKU CBO Ryan Green is on the call. He can talk about the building, about the project if you have any questions. But if not, staff recommends that the Finance Committee endorse this project for full council approval.
Sure. Brian, if you want to provide us a little background, that may answer some of the questions that I'm sure some of the council members have.
Sure. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
This project originated with the CARES Act. It's utilizing the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund. And the characteristics of the award were such that institutions could utilize it for improving airflow and ventilation for facilities that had the integrated technology to do so. This selection of facilities has this technology that can be utilized for better airflow and more efficient use of the heating and ventilation systems. But the core piece of the project is taking these earlier era controls that are Windows XP based moving them to this new Linux-based control system, which allows for a better, more remote interaction. So if somebody notices something's not working properly, you can utilize an application on your phone to make the necessary control changes. So it's a modernization effort, but the reason it originates with CARES and the subsequent acts is because it was going to also improve ventilation airflow for use of the building.
Okay, and it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's about 7, 8 buildings.
Yeah, we're not limiting it to those. Those are the current buildings that we're getting the upgrade going. The project was funded for less than $1 million about 1.5 years ago, but over time, as we've gotten extensions, that has projected the cost to go over the $1 million threshold, which is required recognizing and reporting to you all. And so there could be other facilities that we identify that we could utilize if we get further extensions with more funding. But right now, this set of buildings can be accomplished with the $1.1 million authorization.
Got it. So this isn't actually, and so now you're in my world of technology, so I'm gonna ask tech questions, so I apologize.
Sure.
So this isn't actually like pulling out the HVAC systems. This is the controlling systems, ripping out the old computers, putting in the new systems so that you guys can manage it more efficiently. Do you guys anticipate seeing, an improvement in like the efficiency of the HVAC systems? Students always complain, oh, buildings are either too hot or too cold, right? So is this going to impact that, or is it more of we just got to get it modernized because we can't grow from where we are?
They will probably still stay too hot and too cold
at the same time.
However, the fans will work better moving that hot and cold air throughout the buildings. And in reality, yes, the opportunity to move from the earlier XP base is one of the core components that we're trying to accommodate here, because it's the Linux based system is going to have the security infrastructure that Windows XP lacks. So sure. I'm not aware of any hacks that have ever occurred, but when we have this opportunity to sort of do multiple things at once that still have the outcome of improved ventilation, improved airflow, we just would take those opportunities when funding like this comes along. So that's really the nature of it. But right now I've got my HVAC off because it's pretty nice outside, but most places don't have that capability. So
got it. And are you guys going to be doing the work in-house, or are you bringing in an outside contractor or something like that to do the work?
This is being handled with like a third-party entity that is making the hardware software changes.
Got it. Okay. That's
Luke, I've got a question.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you. This is it's tangential and it's more of a big picture. I'm curious if the CPE staff is kept apprised of when we approve projects like this. Just curious when the project is completed, if the staff is aware of whether or not it was under budget or on budget or over budget. Just curious, and this is not related to this specific project. And Ryan, thank you for your presentation and sharing what you're doing there. I think it's a worthwhile and a needed upgrade. But just curious and Dr. Thompson, I don't know if this is something you could speak to, or Bill, just a big picture question.
Sean is our capital person. I can speak to it, but Sean is going to just show you how much in touch we are with those. Sean's our capital guy.
Okay.
We receive reports that the institutions file with the legislature and look at those, and projects typically come in pretty close to their scope, and the requirement is that they can't go over the authorized amount. So we do receive those reports.
Okay. This is an item that we will have to report next year annually, and so Sean does get those.
Yeah, we can even show you those reports. Not that you'd be thrilled with seeing them, I guess, but yeah, we do they can't go over the amount, and we normally know exactly where they're at. Even, I mean, at times I get reports about whether or not there's something that caused them to need to go over, and they would have to bring that back to us in another way. So there's a lot of checks and balances around this. Capital is one of those items, believe it or not, that we have a lot of checks and balance on in many ways. Even these federal projects that we don't even provide money for.
If we were to get an extension that would increase this scope, I would have to bring this back to recognize that revised scope.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I do think I need to recuse myself from voting. My office is located in the Wallace building, and I don't know if I should participate in the vote. I can give you lots of, I will not say any more.
Is it hot, cold?
Yeah, I'm sure the Wallace building is pretty hot right
in
now.
that building. You better vote.
Well, I don't know, Aaron. I'm trying to act as a CPE member, not an KU employee.
Dr. Ellis, my guess is you're probably pretty content with the temperature in your office right now.
Right.
Well,
as much as I appreciate that, Dr. Ellis, Heather or Travis, if she recuses herself, do we have enough people to actually vote on it? It takes us down to 3.
We need 4 for quorum. So, but Travis is on the line and can tell us whether or not she needs to do that.
I mean, I think if we didn't have had quorum issue, you know, I think, I mean, your sort of interest in this is noted. Obviously, you're providing the overall faculty perspective for all the campuses and not just EKU. And this is just a recommendation to the full board. So I think we can record your vote and note in the minutes that your comment about your location in the building.
So we wouldn't actually be approving. This is a recommendation to take this to full council, at which point the full council will give the final approval.
Yeah, it'll be on consent, but yes. So I think that's fine.
And it is a consent item though. So although the full council does it, unless you pull it out, it is on consent. So the better process is that if the finance committee approves it, then it makes it an easier process on consent.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I think I would just note in the minutes that the finance committee approved and note that you made the comments, but decided that it was okay for you to go ahead to vote. And then it'll just go on consent and the full council can take action on it.
Okay.
Thank you for your guidance.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on that item? Go right ahead.
Luke, I move that we approve this request by EKU to upgrade their heating and cooling system.
Perfect. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Fantastic. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, like sign. All right. Motion carries. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next item is the 2022-2024 budget of the Commonwealth, HB1. I think that's just an informational item. That's correct.
That's what we did earlier, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Was there anything else that we wanted to cover on that item? Anybody have any questions, or Bill, did we miss anything that you think it's worth mentioning?
I was in the process of traveling from one phone to this and didn't get a chance to respond to Sean's call out. I do want to thank the legislature here. I wanted to go on record. They really listened to us. I testified, I'll tell this in my president's meeting, but I testified 14 times during the session. And there was a whole lot of meetings outside the 14 times. And we were constantly talking about the value of higher education and the return on investment. We produced, first of all, every president, myself, and all of us on the same page. And we were recognized for staying on the same page. The second thing I will tell you is that we've gotten our data together. We showed the return on investment, which is 67 times what the state puts a dollar in, they get a 67% return. Not once did we talk about, that we've been cut for so many years, give us money. We talked about what it meant to invest, and they did. I mean, the governor put forth a great budget. The House put forth a great budget. The Senate took both of those budgets, gave us a greater budget. So, I mean, and then it went in consensus where the entire legislature did, and the governor signed off on it. I guess I just want to officially say to this finance committee, and this budget came through this finance cabinet. And in fact, not that we want to take too long to celebrate, but I guess I just want to say that the campuses, the presidents, had a meeting with them last week. They're very appreciative of CPE and the role that we played in this, as well as I am of them. So I just want to say thanks to this committee, but go on record thanking the legislature and the governor for producing a higher ed budget that in fact kind of helps us keep moving toward this 60 by 30.
Fully agree. Well said. Any other questions on the budget from the Commonwealth? Okay. I believe the next item is the KSU special appropriation, House Bill 250. Put that on the table.
Sure,
Travis.
Yes, and obviously Aaron will jump in, and I'll just note that we'll have a full presentation on this on HB 250 at the full council meeting. So rather than giving you all the presentation and then giving it again before the whole board, because I think it's probably a conversation we'll all want to have together. So I'll sort of, and you all have seen the materials and provided to you all and on board, and I'll sort of focus on the financial items here because that's likely the things that will roll up through this group. As you know, House Bill 250 appropriated to $23 million or $23 million for a current year appropriation to cover the financial shortfall by noted in the report approved by this committee and approved by the full board back in November. So obviously, we talked about this. We're obviously very proud that we were able to accomplish this. Obviously, this was part of our budget recommendation. We're so very happy that it was supported. We also received $1.5 million in the next fiscal year for CP operations to manage some of this and also to hire an outside consultant to help do an external review and help make some suggestions on some management and structural items with the institution. So we're very pleased. Again, thanking as we're in the process of thanking the General Assembly for the best higher education budget that we can remember. They stepped up for Kentucky State too, and so we're so very excited about that. Not only did we get the what we asked for in the $23 million, but in addition to that, we also received $5 million in the next fiscal year, and then $10 million in the second year of the biennium to provide to Kentucky State if they meet some of the benchmarks and goals set forth in the management and improvement plan that we will adopt sometime before November 1st of this year. So now not only do we have money to fill the financial shortfall at KSU, but we've also got some funding to help shore it up financially moving forward and to make some strategic investments for the institution if they're able to meet these goals and benchmarks set forth by you all in the plan that we'll adopt in November. So again, very excited about that. The process wise, at the next meeting, the KSU will be requesting a portion of the $23 million to be provided. Obviously, it's a current year appropriation, and they're going to need those funds to make payroll in this next cycle. So they'll be making a request for that to pay off some of the prior year and current year debts and to fix some of that structural imbalance, and to get them in the budget and to get them through to the June 15th payroll, which is right before the June 17th council meeting, which I'm sure there will be another action item for you all to take for the remainder of the funds, or at least a portion of the remainder of the funds to go back to the institution. We are still in the process of getting that proposal. That would normally be something that I think the finance committee would see beforehand, but just considering the tight nature of the turnaround here, you guys won't be able to review that. So we're still working with KSU on finalizing some of those numbers in that first request, but it will be available to the full council at the next meeting. Now, the next round of funding, we'll bring that before the finance committee and let you guys review that, improve, and make a recommendation onto the full council before its June meeting. So that's how that piece is going to work with the funding. Well, we got a note from the budget office, and Sean can confirm that we've and Bill, that we did receive the funding for the $23 million. We have it in our budget. We have it to be able to distribute to KSU. I think the Office of State Budget Director and the Finance Cabinet will probably work a way to give the money to the institution directly through the accounting that they have there internally, the way that they already provide the allotments to KSU once we approve. So they're waiting for our approval before that money is distributed. So again, I'm focusing more on the financial piece. I'll talk about the full bill at the full council meeting, but it's also, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have about KSU right now, if you'd like to ask them.
Any questions?
Not for lack of interest, Travis, but Dr. Thompson's kept us apprised throughout. So
well, like I said,
thank
yes.
you very much.
You're very welcome. I mean, it's been a long process to get to where we are, and we'll talk more about it with the full group. Because again, I think the entire council, needs to hear, full accounting of the bill and what all's in there, because it's a lot. There's a lot for us to do. There's a lot for KSU's board to do, in addition to all the other things that we're already responsible for. But we're excited about it. I mean, we wanted the money. We knew there were going to be strings attached, and we got to a point where we just wanted to know what they were so we could implement them. And now we're in that implementation process and figuring out how to operationalize this stuff. And we look forward to the conversation that we'll have with you all on Friday to talk about the details.
Yeah, and I won't go in great detail on this other than the bill has a lot to it. And so we surely at the Finance Committee, I know you don't want to get into that, we will in the full council, but it's a lot. I mean, I think about when the council voted for us to move forward, there were a lot of caveats. Well, you probably got all those caveats and more. The council will be heavily engaged in this work. Also in the finance portion, this 23 million, we have to get it to them now, of course, because it's to remain solvent. But I guess I just want to thank you all too for kind of listening with the staff and interjecting, and you weren't shy about interjecting. I think this is, and this will set a precedent. I hate to say that in this manner, but it's never been done in Kentucky. And hopefully it will never have to be done again, right? But I just want to say that in this case, the House and the Senate over and over again, if you looked at any of the legislative sessions on the floor, whatever, they kept referring back to CPE, that they had trust in us, that they had trust that we were doing the right thing and so on. They gave the governor a lot of credit for putting the executive order in. So I don't want to be shy by saying that over and over again, people voted yes under the auspices of CPE involvement. So I guess I want to thank you all for this.
Thanks to you and Travis too.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's way more work than we even have time to get into right now. Even if we had the rest of the day, I don't think we could cover all of the work. So it is greatly appreciated on our part, and I'm sure KSU appreciates it as well. So, so that is not a motion or an actionable item. That was just an update, correct? Okay, I saw you nod.
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent.
Yeah, there'll be two. Just to, there's the action item that will be on the full agenda for the approval for a large portion of 23 million to cover the current year deficit. And we'll also have a policy for approval of KSU expenditures. Part of the bill requires CP to approve all expenditures over $5,000. And so we have a policy set forth that we'll ask you all to approve, that will delegate that responsibility to staff, and with some parameters that you all will see in the policy. So I just want to tee that up too.
Perfect. Okay. Folks, that is all the items on our agenda today. So I will open the floor. Heather, Bill, Sean, Travis, Aaron, is there anything else that we need to be aware of?
Not at this time, Chair Metzer.
Eric, I think you were suggesting something.
Yeah, in that our meeting on this Good Friday is after the adjournment sine die of the legislature. I was wondering if this committee would join with me in recommending perhaps to the full council that we adopt a resolution that echoes the things we've been talking about here today as to the legislature and governor's mutual cooperation and efforts to put higher education first in this budget. And our thanks to them on behalf of the institutions and the future of programming here in Kentucky. So just appropriate wording that we might present to the council on Friday and adopt in the minutes and share with the legislative leadership in the governor's office.
I think that's a good idea. Eric, are you recommending we do anything today, or is this just a informational in prep for the meeting on Friday?
I am not sure, Dr. Thompson, what helps. If it would help.
I would have this. First of all, I think it's a great idea, Eric. I think it is. I think we need to show respect and appreciation when it's warranted, when it's good. And this is a case where both are the case. And I would recommend that this finance committee, who you all are that we take a resolution and vote on it and put it as a part of, you can pull it out, Luke, if you choose, but put it as a part of the consent agenda. Because I do believe it's the right thing to do. But I would think this committee that proposes the budget, right, for higher education would be the place where it would come in to that resolution vote.
Well, if I'm happy to make that motion to request that staff who are far more articulate than I am might draft something for presenting to the full council on the 15th to express our appreciation, and that it then be shared.
Excellent.
So Eric, if I could ask a question, would this be to the governor and the legislature?
Yes, just a good example of joint cooperation.
Sure.
Bipartisan cooperation. Certainly.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's warranted. So I agree with that.
And
I agree with you.
Thank you. Yeah. All of our mothers always say please and thank you, right? So
that's right.
That's right. That's right. So is there a motion we need to make today? Or Eric, you made a motion to recommend to staff to draft the verbiage that would be presented at the meeting on Friday.
Yes,
okay.
Please.
So
Travis
the motion is on the.
I think that must be okay then.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to do it. To direct staff to draft the recommendation and then to bring to before the council for a vote on Friday.
Perfect. So the motion is on the table, as Eric said, and Travis clarified. So I'll put it to a vote. All in favor of? Oh, I guess we need a second.
I'll second, Luke.
Mr. Nelson, thank you very much. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. So thank you very much for that, Eric. And yes, Travis or anybody else on the staff, if you need any help or want any feedback on the verbiage, we'll make ourselves available. Okay. Any other topics or items? All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Excellent. Moved by Mr. Nelson, seconded by Dr. Ellis. All in favor indicate by closing your meeting. Thank you all very much. And can't wait to see everybody on Thursday.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
everyone.
Bye-bye.